Okay, let's talk about who disappointed us tonight.
In terms of the presentation, I'm not feeling the easel at all.
Your attack, your color, your surface, and the type of painting it is the problem. Do you know what I mean?
The commercial aspect to his work is going to be a positive thing for him.
The expression is neither here nor there. It's certainly too obscure. It's not anything except a kind of minimalistic painting.
And so she had played around with her attack of the canvas, but none of it really paid off.
It looks to me like very good wallpaper. We heard a lot of backpedaling, but there's no excuse for a bad painting.
Actually, for me, it feels like a model. It doesn't really feel like a sculpture.
I see this as a drawing. The wires become the lines of a pencil.
This is a sort of a classic problem when a painter tries to make sculpture and they're not dealing with these things as objects. It's a piece of a set.
We don't feel the life here. I don't hear the hum. I don't hear the buzzing of the light. I'm not feeling any of that energy.
It is very much like a store display.
Right.
I actually think that you're not making art here.
You have created a mystery here. I'm not engaged with that mystery. I'm not curious about this, and I'm moving on to the next piece.
In all, this is the most theatrical work, yet at the same time, it was the most fragile. That is very difficult to achieve.
Hey, Chow, I liked, and you talked about a playfulness, and I had really, gotten that.
It has no life in it.
If you were going to do a retrospective of your work, would this piece be in it? Even though the head is a TV, I felt some humanity in a very alien-looking creature.
His insider art joke was just too insular.
Your piece had a lot of energy, but it completely lacked direction.
In terms of just sheer beautiful, I have not seen pink look so drab in a long time.
I think you wanted to show yourself, and you backed out. And what you left us with is something generic, and that's a problem. It's a complete failure.
I am seeing her in a live model drawing class in middle school.
I think it's just her way of saying, I'm not going to play.
And I'm all for breaking the rules, but if you're gonna break them, show up with something that's more interesting.
Just burn this, I mean, it looks like an arts and crafts project. Get rid of it.
It sounds like you started it out to give us something special, but it ended up as a cliche.
As you're describing it, it sounds at its best like a New Yorker cover.
He has an awfully long penis.
Is it supposed to be excrement?
See, you don't really know what this piece is. We don't know what the piece is, and it comes off, therefore, as incredibly familiar, kind of adolescent mixed with shock your grandmother performance art.
It just has lots of different layers to it, and the more that I hear about it, the more I'm enjoying it.
Even if it was somebody else's idea, she took that idea and incorporated that into her piece. That is putting it out there.
I think you ended up making an extremely generic painting that I'm afraid, even if it were in a hotel room, could get lost there.
Your pose is very relaxed, so it's both a combination of speed and relaxation.
Part of making a great moment sometime is letting us fill in the blanks, and you filled in all the blanks for us.
It has no sex, it has no speed, and it has no status.
There's an attempt at exuberance that I can see there, but it's like dancing without music, There's no rhythm to this. Maybe as an artist, you're going to be the overstimulation guy.
There is no saving grace for the work.
She's a bit stuck in this idealized 17-year-old girl, and with a bit more content, she might have something.
There is a sense of unhealthy self-satisfaction in the way that this painting is made. To keep adding and adding and adding and adding until you're done is sort of like pushing and pushing and pushing me out of there, because when he was done, I don't want to be around.
The persona of Ryan is this rebel, yet I don't see any rebellion in his work at all.
Sometimes you have to close the door on cool. You painted yourself as a poser, and ultimately, we felt it was one-dimensional.
I feel like your process is a lot more interesting than what we're looking at. It looks like a kid did it.
The story is pretty amazing. You're up in trees, you're finding bugs, you're having secret worlds. Very little of that is in the work.
I would say almost none of that is in here. I have no emotional reaction looking at it. The substance of what he was drawing just felt generic and flat and not very telling.
A dictionary is more interesting than that piece. I think that they both failed in a sense by going for the simple answer to heaven and hell. It doesn't take you anywhere, doesn't tell you anything about anything.
Yeah, I think it's not futuristic or prehistoric enough. And that's where I'd like you to get a little more concept going. He's got to give us more heart and more humor.
And soul and emotion, which unfortunately he has very little of. Your piece was distant, cold, and left us stranded.
To me, there's a kind of state of grace that you've achieved here that is something that a musician has when they're playing music. It's something very rare.
He did kind of get caught up in the abstraction. It was like being on a scavenger hunt, but I never got the payoff at the end.
And especially when we were speaking about your work in front of you like you didn't exist, that also is uncomfortable.